Hey everybody, it's me, Kevin Benson. And I recently made a video about upcoming 2023 movies, and while I was making that video, it got me thinking about last year's movies. 2022 was a really good year for, big movies, and so I just wanted to do a tier list of what I think of the major 2022 movies that I've seen. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, first, we have Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish, which recently got a release, which came out just a couple months ago, and it's like the seventh Shrek movie, and honestly, not a single person actually thought it would be good. I didn't see anyone think that it would be good before it released, but then now that it's released, it is regarded as like the best Shrek movie ever, better than the first two. And after watching it's actually pretty good. It's strangely adult for a Puss in Boots sequel. For the seventh Shrek movie, it weirdly has a lot of heart and a lot of good messages and a good dive into Puss in Boots character and what it means to be alive. And I know that sounds stupid for a Puss in Boots movie, but it's good. So it's gonna go into the good tier. Now next we have Beast, and unlike most other movies in 2022, it wasn't like a big fantastical thing. It was a really small story just about a family trying to survive being hunted by a lion, and it's pretty good. But it's not as good as Puss in Boots 2, so it's just gonna go right behind it in the good tier. Now next we have Black Adam, and a lot of people think it's a bad movie, but I think it's just okay. It's one of the most generic superhero movies I've seen, but that's not entirely a negative. I had fun watching it. It is the perfect, just mindless movie to watch. It is not as good as, most modern superhero movies, but it's enjoyable, and if you just want to play something on the TV, play that. It's a fun movie. It goes in the okay tier. Now, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is a very divisive movie. Some people think it's a really great movie, some people think it's the worst Marvel movie, and I'm kind of in the middle, because I can see what the movie was trying to do and the potential that it had, but it did not execute it well, mainly because it was going to be much darker, and some of that can still be seen in the final movie, but they had to change it because they didn't want it to be too dark, and so they got Sam Raimi and just a bunch of different ideas in the movie that just aren't executed well. And the main reason people even like the movie is all the cameos, but before the movie even came out, the people that got to see the movie early, like the YouTubers, they spoiled all the main reveals, so I didn't get any surprises in the movie, and that just made the movie not enjoyable for me. So that shows that the movie relies way too heavily on just surprise characters. And if you already know what the characters are, then you aren't going to enjoy the movie. So I honestly think it's a bad movie. It's definitely one of the worst Marvel movies. I just didn't enjoy watching it. I can see that it could have been good, but I just didn't like it. Now next we have Smile, and from all the promotional stuff, everyone thought it would just be a really generic horror movie, just the most boring, basic, cookie-cutter horror movie ever. And the movie was surprisingly good. Actually, it was really good. One of the best horror movies this year. It was actually pretty good. It was a good dive into grief and trauma. It was pretty good, honestly. I didn't think it would be good. I thought it would be generic, but it's pretty good, and I hope they just continue the world. So it goes in the good tier, and I think it's better than Puss in Boots 2. Now next we have Hotel Transylvania 4, and for the fourth Hotel Transylvania movie, it's not terrible, but I didn't like it. It doesn't have a good plot, it just backtracks on all the character developments. It's not very good, so it goes in the bad tier. Now Jurassic World Dominion, this movie fucking sucks. I'm not a fan of it. I honestly just do not think that Jurassic World Dominion is a good movie. It had all the potential to be a good movie. The entire trilogy was building up to having the world be overrun with dinosaurs. The movie is called Jurassic World. and they just don't have a Jurassic World. It's just another condensed little lab area with dinosaurs, when they literally were setting up for years that it would be going through this world overrun with dinosaurs, and that was so cool, and they just didn't do that. In my opinion, the worst thing a movie can do is be not enjoyable, or not give me what I want out of the movie, and what it promised out of the movie. If it doesn't fulfill what it promised, then I don't think it's a good movie. And Jurassic World Dominion, I think it's gonna be the first movie in the god-awful tier. Now next we have Lightyear, and this is also a pretty divisive movie. I've seen people that like it, but it's mostly people disliking it, and yeah, it isn't good. It is pretty bad. It doesn't have anything to do with Buzz Lightyear. Sure, it has space, and sometimes Buzz says lines from the original, but it's clear that they just had a script for like a time travel space action movie, and they just were like, hey, we own Buzz Lightyear, let's just make it a Buzz Lightyear movie. It's just bad. So it goes in the god-awful tier. Now, Violent Night. This is a movie that came out back in December, and it is fantastic. I made an entire review of the movie, just talking about it, and it's a really, really great Christmas movie. It is like the next Die Hard movie. It's going to be like the adult Christmas movie that parents watch. It is really good, and it's going to be like a yearly Christmas watch for me. During Christmas time, I'm going to watch this movie. It is really good, so it goes in the great tier. Okay, now next we have Morbius. You already know where I'm going to put this. Okay, now Pinnochio. Now, a lot of people just think Pinnochio is just another bad Disney remake, and even Disney doesn't have faith in it. It only got a Disney Plus release, but I think it's good. I think it's pretty good. It's not as good as the original, but I mean, for Disney, a remake on Disney Plus, it isn't that bad. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's amazing, but I mean, for what it is, I enjoyed it. I liked watching it. So it goes in the okay tier. Okay, Sonic 2. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that Sonic 2 is bad, and it's a pretty divisive film, like, in the Sonic community of whether it's good. And, like, I definitely can see why people don't like it. It is obvious to me that, like, there's lots of problems, a ton of issues with the movie, but it is, like, the best, like, Sonic movie that someone could get. If you're a Sonic fan, I think that it's a really fun movie. If you're, like, a critic of movies and aren't connected to Sonic, you probably won't enjoy it, but I had fun watching it, and I'm very excited for Sonic 3. So for me, it goes in the great tier. Now, The Bad Guys in the next DreamWorks movie, and it's based off one of my favorite book series of the same name. And, like, the animation in the movie is stellar. It looks so good. It's clear that Spider-Verse had a ton of impact on animation, because, like, DreamWorks has just been using that art style for, like, Puss in Boots and The Bad Guys, and it looks really good. Like, even if you aren't interested in the plot, you should probably just watch the movie for the animation alone. But the plot itself is pretty good. It's surprisingly heartfelt and is, like, about, like, being a bad person, like, what it means to be a bad person. DreamWorks is surprisingly, like, making some fantastic movies. So in my opinion, it goes in the great tier. Okay, now we have The Batman. And unpopular opinion, but I think this is the best Batman movie that we've ever got. I think it's better than, like, the 89 Batman, and yes, I think it's better than the Christian Bale Batman. It is a very realistic take on Batman, but it doesn't try to be this dark and bleak movie. It is just like, what if Batman was real? One thing I love about the movie is it really focuses on him being a detective, and I think making the Riddler the villain is the best choice they could have made, because actually seeing, like, because, like, the movie has a good mix of Batman, like, fighting people and just doing actual investigative work. It is so cool to see that version of the character, because no other Batman has really focused on being a detective. I actually can't think of a bad thing about the Batman. I think it's a fantastic movie. It ain't as good as Morbius, but it's amazing. Okay, Thor: Love and Thunder. So, a lot of people don't like this movie, and before I even watched it and I saw all the reviews, I was like, the movie must not be that bad, and then I watched the movie, and it is that bad. it is terrible. The movie has so many cool elements that could have been used better. They have the villain, Gore, played by Christian Bale, who's a fantastic actor. And he plays Gore, one of the most interesting villains, someone who actually wants to genuinely, like, kill people, like, violently, and get revenge on his dead daughter. And Jane Foster has literal cancer, and she gets the powers of Thor, and it's such an interesting dynamic, but the execution is terrible. Thor Ragnarok had a good balance of comedy and drama, but this movie is just full-on comedy, and everything is just rushed. It doesn't actually have any time to actually focus on the cool elements. And it's way too kiddie, and the animation is awful. The writing is awful, and it's just a soulless garbage movie. By far the worst Marvel movie. So it goes in the god-awful tier. Now next we have Uncharted. Now, I haven't played the video games, but I've heard pretty good things, and I was pretty interested in the movie, especially when they announced Tom Holland would star in it, and as a person who hasn't played the games and doesn't really have a connection to the characters, I like the movie. It's a generic action movie, but that's not a bad thing. It's a fun, enjoyable, like, treasure hunting movie. And, like, sometimes we just need that kind of movie. One that's not trying to be a big epic movie, just a fun treasure movie in the style of, like, a 2000 movie. So I think it goes in the good tier. Now, Firestarter, a remake of the classic horror movie of the same name. And it is pretty bad, because it's not really a horror movie. The main character has fire powers, and I think that they just saw Marvel with all these cool superhero movies, and they were just like, why don't we make Firestarter a superhero movie? Because it's mainly just about her being a superhero, and not actually a horror movie. It might have a darker tone than most superhero movies, but it's not a horror movie. It didn't deliver what was expected of it, so it goes in the bad tier. Now next we have Top Gun Maverick, the sequel to Top Gun, a classic movie, which I haven't seen. Yep, when I saw Top Gun Maverick a while ago, it was the first Top Gun movie I've seen. I didn't see the original, and for a newcomer, I really liked the movie. It has some really good action, and even though I'm not even a fan of, like, plane movies or, like, army movies, for some reason I really liked this movie. There was just something about it that made it really enjoyable, and I think it's clear that if you like the original, you might like this movie. I think it's pretty good. In fact, I think it's great. I highly recommend watching it. So it goes in the great tier. And last but not least, we have Halloween Ends, the final Halloween movie. I've already made, like, multiple videos on the movie, so I'll make this quick. And it is so divisive in the Halloween community of whether it's a good or bad movie, because it's just nothing like the other movies and isn't truly a finale. It's about an entirely different character that gets killed off at the end. It's just a very different story, and honestly, the more time that passes, the more I like it. Because, like, I think everybody was expecting that the movie would just be a finale to the Halloween movies, very similar to the last two, but this movie is not that. It is about just the psyche of a killer, and being, like, Michael Myers, and the plot, even though it's, like, completely different from all the other movies, I like it. I think it's enjoyable. It's not what I wanted out of the movie, but I liked what we got. I wish we had gotten a true finale, but for what the movie is, I enjoyed it. And so I think it goes in the amazing tier. And that is my ranking for most major 2022 movies. I know there's movies that I didn't mention, but that's mainly because I just didn't have a lot to say about them. And, like, do you have a different ranking? But yeah, I just wanted to do this quick video, just going through my thoughts on the past year of movies, and I'll probably do the same next year for this year's movies, and 2023 is looking to be an even better year for movies, and I'm excited. So anyway, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, why not check out my video on upcoming 2023 movies? And I hope I see you at my next video. Bye!